Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Today, back to working over here on the Diresta Bandsaw. We are getting down into the short rows of getting this project done, I hope. And today what I want to try to tackle is a couple of things. Number one, I want to start out with these bandsaw guides. These are basically what the bandsaw will run down through, and it just kind of holds the blade and keeps it in the proper alignment. There's two of these mounted on the machine, one above the table and one below the table. And we had the original guides that was on the machine, at least when I got it, and this is of the style that probably would have been on the machine as new. These are made by Wright, and you can actually still get parts for these. I think you can actually even still order new castings and stuff for these guides even today. So even though they're old, they're not obsolete. They're still around. So let's get these things. We're going to take them apart. I want to get them cleaned up real good. Check them out. They actually appear to be in decent shape, but we're going to go through them and just make sure everything's real good. There's a bearing that's on this back piece. We may end up replacing those. I'm not sure yet. And get a blade on it, and who knows, maybe even make the first cut since we've restored this saw. So let's see what we can get into, and let's see what we can get accomplished. Before we tear one of these apart, I do want to kind of just real quickly go over the basics of it. So this thing mounts. There's a little stud here in the back that this will mount up on, and your blade will run down through these two guides. There's one on the top and one on the bottom. And over here on the side, you loosen this up, and there, you can adjust the width of this to fit whatever the width of your blade is. What you want to do is you want to have the back of the blade in the guide and the teeth kind of sticking out the front so that it's just wide enough to guide it. Where it'll slide down through it, just slip right down through it, but not enough for that blade to rotate and turn. Now, the bearing in the back, this is going to spin as the blade goes by. The blade will be coming down, and it'll just rub up against that. This is a backer, and will prevent the blade from going farther back and prevent the blade from going where the teeth get into here, and it dulls the teeth. And you adjust this. There's a set screw on the side here, and you can adjust this in and out depending on how wide your blade is. Looks like this was probably made for maybe a 1-inch wide blade right now, but you can adjust it, easily, as you got a good 2 inches in there that you can run a blade. So what I want to do is I want to just take this thing apart and get all the components apart, check everything out. The guides appear to be in decent shape. A lot of times those will be really messed up, but I don't know. We'll take a closer look at them as we take them apart. Let me get some tools out, and we'll see if we can get one of these things apart. All right, so this is the set screw that you use to adjust for the width of your blade. Again, adjust that little bearing wheel in and out. I'm just going to loosen it on up. In fact, I'm just going to take it out. Put the other end on this, make it a little bit easier. All right. Often I'll see a thumb screw in these rather than just a regular bolt. This one has a regular bolt. It looks like it also has a nut here on the back, or a pipe plug, and I believe what they used to do is pack these with grease on the inside of there. There's a hole that runs all the way down to the bearing, and that just kind of keeps things lubricated, if I remember right. I need to kind of tap it out, though. Let's see if we can get a little brass hammer and knock it out. Let's see here. Yeah, there we go. Got a little surface rust on it. That bearing doesn't feel great. We may see about if we can change that bearing out. And let's go ahead. I want to pull this nut off, or bolt off. That's what adjusts for the thickness of your blade. All right, and now you got a piece here. This just screws in and out, and this piece fits over a little yoke right here in that screw, and that's what adjusts it in and out. And there's our guides. I'm going to go ahead and pull those out. I just want to get it broken down to the key components here, and then I want to get everything cleaned up, paint what needs to be painted, and like I said, look at those bearings. Let me get a screwdriver to take those jaws off there, guides. That one's off. All right, and got a little set screw here that mounts it to the post that it mounts on. I'm gonna go ahead and just pull it out. I want to get these things completely torn down. I will comment, like I said, you can still get parts for these. I know that Woodworkers Toolworks up in Wisconsin, I've mentioned those guys many times before, as I have found them to be a valuable source for all kinds of parts. But I know that they keep in stock the parts for these guides. So if you need anything, you can give Woodworkers Toolworks a call, and they should pretty much have everything. You can get new jaws, you can get new bearings, entire new discs to go on the front of these things. So anything that would be a wear item that would need to be replaced, they have them. So I think that we're going to be able to use all the original parts here without having to order anything, but we'll know better as we dig farther into this and start cleaning them up. But that's my game plan right now, is to not have to order anything. But if I do, we'll be giving Bobby up at Woodworkers Toolworks a call. All right, I'm gonna finish getting these off here, and then we're gonna see what we need to do to take this bearing apart. Well, live and learn. I took this bearing, and all the ones that I've ever dealt with actually have like a modern bearing pressed inside of here. And I went over to press this out. I put it on my arbor press and put some blocks up underneath it and went to pressing it out. And in the process of pressing it out, I had some little flanges out on the outside edge of this, and it was supporting it. Well, it just shattered. This outside wheel is very hard, very brittle. And I discovered that the old original backer plates here, what do you want to call this, they don't have a bearing pressed inside of them. They are a bearing. So this has basically just got the outer part of this is the race. So this is not a replaceable bearing. And in the process, I broke it. Yeah. Sorry I didn't get that on video. I wasn't expecting anything exciting like that to happen. I thought I was just going to go over there and they were going to press right apart, and it got a little bit hard on me, and I put a little bit more pressure on it, and next thing I knew, it shattered. So I said I wasn't going to order any parts for these. That plan has changed. I just got off the phone with the folks up at Woodworkers Toolworks, who I mentioned a minute ago, had parts for these, and I just went ahead and ordered 2 new wheels, and they are the modern type that have the replaceable bearing in them. So when the bearing does go bad in them, you just can change the bearing out. It's probably not a very expensive bearing, off the shelf part, something you can go to probably any parts house and get. But these, like I said, were the originals. I'm assuming. I mean, these bearings are probably over 100 years old, and they're both. I mean, even this one here. I mean, I'm turning it, and you can feel it. It's crunchy in there. It needs to be replaced anyway. So, we're going to go ahead and get these parts cleaned up, and I'm going to have to wait for the new bearings to come in before I can finish reassembling them. So anyway, we're going to continue on, at least doing what we can do until those parts get here. Well, guys, after the mishap here with the bearing that holds everything, I did get some new ones in. I ordered some brand spanking new ones from Woodworkers Toolworks. These are basically modern replacements that they make up there and keep in stock. So we're just going to put these on here. Unlike the originals that have the ball bearings built right into it, these actually have a modern type ball bearing. The nice thing about this is if that bearing goes bad for some reason or another, you can just press the old bearing out, pop a new one in there. This is a standard size bearing. What is that? 6293L8, it looks like. That may not be right. I can't read it real well without getting down real close to it, but it is a modern replaceable bearing. So anyway, we are ready to reassemble these and hopefully get them back over onto the machine. So we will start by, we'll just take our backer wheel here and put it right in there. And I've got the original hardware, but I think we're going to be replacing this with some new hardware. There's no reason to use this old stuff. So in keeping with the look and feel of the machine that we've got, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a square head set screw in these rather than a socket cap screw. The socket cap screw is probably a little bit easier to adjust, but I want to keep the look right, so we'll put a socket set screw in here. I think that was what was in there originally, just a bolt. Let me go grab the right piece of hardware and we'll get that in there. Like I said, socket set screw. We're going to be putting a square head set screw in here like such. And it goes up against that flat. I'm not going to tighten it down at the moment because I do want to get everything adjusted before we do. Now the next thing we need to do here is there's a set of guides that go on here. These guides on this side, they've got a little radius milled into them so that you got room to clear this wheel. And I opted to just use the original ones. You can order new ones. You can get these brand new from Woodworkers Toolworks. The ones that were on here were not in terrible shape. I did put them on my belt sander and tried to clean them up just a little bit. And these, we are going to use some socket set screws, or socket cap screws rather, to put in there. They've been counterbored. So let me go get that hardware and we'll get that going. So this is just a 1032 low head socket cap screw that I'm putting in here. Original ones were just a regular screwdriver, like a flat tip screwdriver. They were like this. But honestly, I couldn't find any new hardware that was like that. And some of these screws I didn't really want to reuse. So I ended up going with these low head socket cap screws. So the heads on them are not as tall as a regular socket cap screw, but they're going to work just fine. Let's get this in here. These are 1032 by 1/2 inch. And we'll put another one over here. This one had worn on the front a little bit. I'm going to flip it around and put it on the other side so that the wear is in the back and we got a little bit better surface up on the front side. I think it'll be just fine. If Jimmy wants to replace these, he can order some new ones. But honestly, these are going to be just fine like they are. There's a lot of life left in these. Trust me, I've seen them in much, much worse shape. All right, that's those. Next is the jaws that are on the other side, and these need to have blanks put in them. These don't have the radius on one side, they're just flat all the way around. And I believe these are actually hardened steel, if I remember right. These aren't just regular pieces of soft steel with some holes in them. They have to be heat treated and what have you. You could make them in the shop just as easily out of some steel that you can harden and run them through a heat treat after you drill and counterbore the holes. Basically what these little pads are going to do, the bandsaw blade is going to kind of run in between these. The teeth will stick out to the front of them. You'll adjust that wheel in the back so that it will back the blade up and it won't let the teeth get into these pieces, but these will guide that blade and keep it from turning, twisting, what have you, so that while you're making your cut, it just kind of holds it in place and keeps that blade from moving around. All right, so that's got that side done. So now these kind of fit together, and you can adjust the width of these with a set screw. Let's see what we need to do that. Tell you what, before I do that, I'm going to put just a little bit of grease down here in this bottom so that this will slide good, doesn't get gunked up. Let me go grab some grease real quick. So not much, just a little bit of grease down here in the bottoms. Okay. Now this is the set screw. You see there's a little place there that captures in that slot, and that's what's going to move it in and out. And again, I'm going to put a little bit of grease right there just to help it out a little bit. We will put that in and screw it all together. And finally, there is a bolt that goes through here with a washer on the top, and that's what tightens that in place. So once you get it adjusted, you can tighten that up. Let me figure out what size we need for that. Originally was like this, so let me see if I can find some hardware similar to that, and we'll get that in there. All right, I ended up just cleaning up the original bolts. I kind of like that tall head it had on it. I didn't have anything quite like that. I'm going to put a new fresh washer back there behind that, but we'll go ahead and put this together. And of course that you can adjust your width of your blade there. Once you get it where you want it, you just tighten that down, and that guide is assembled. We're ready to get this back over on the bandsaw. So anyway, we'll do the other one assembled as well, and we'll go get these put together, put on the machine. We ran into a little problem here. I had forgotten about this. I got a broken screw in one of the jaws here on the second one, and we need to try to get that out. So I think what I'm going to do is a lot of times you can, if you put a drill bit in here, just the pressure from the drilling and the spinning action will sometimes spin those things out. Now I've got some left-hand drill bits, and a lot of times what I'll do is I'll go in and I'll drill it, put my drill on reverse, and that drill bit will cut in reverse and it will screw it out. But since this is a through hole, instead of using the left-hand drill bits, I can just use a regular right-hand drill bit, drill it from the back side, and screw it out the bottom, theoretically, if all goes well. So anyway, what I'm going to do here is I need to get a center punch in the very center of this hole. So I've got a transfer punch that just fits down inside. This is threaded on the inside, but I'm going to put a center punch in the back side of that screw, and okay, I can see that punch. That'll help get my drill to center up on it. And I'm just going to go to the drill press, and I'm going to put a drill bit in there that's smaller than the threaded size here, and see if I can drill it out. And hopefully just the turning action drill bit will screw it out. If not, then I've got a hole that I can put an easy out in and see if I can back it out that way. Now the thing with easy outs is I don't really like the name, because usually it's not easy. In fact, if it's easy to use an easy out, it's not a very stuck screw. But we're going to go through the process here and see if we can get it all figured, get it worked out. So let me get a drill bit. We'll go over to the drill press. I think I'm going to go ahead and squirt a little bit of penetrating oil down inside this, just to hopefully help lubricate it, help get it down in those screw holes or whatever, screw our threads before we go. I'll let it soak for a little while, and then we'll see if we can drill it out and get lucky. Let's hope we get lucky. Over at the drill press, I have my little jaw here and a little small vise where I can manipulate it and hold it and make sure it's square. I've got sitting up on some blocks. We got clearance under the bottom if that screw does, we get lucky and that screw breaks loose and screws out. And it should be all nice and square. So, all right, let's see if we get lucky. You can see I got some fluid in there. And it's drilling it. It doesn't feel like it's screwing it out. Oh boy. All right, let's take it back to the bench and see what we're going to do next here. All right, I've got a screw extractor here, easy out, whatever you want to call it. We're going to put it in that screw. Now the way these work is it's just got a little spiral that tapers, and as you turn this, it kind of digs down into that hole and grips it, and hopefully gives you something that you can get enough leverage on it to screw it out. So let's see if we can do it without breaking the easy out in there as well. Man, that thing is tough. All right, it is not wanting to come out easily. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little propane map blowtorch and put some heat on it and see if that helps. I think I'm going to take these copper jaws off just so I don't get things too hot. So let me try that. We're just kind of trying everything we can to get this thing to work. All right, here we go. Put a little heat in there. Sometimes that'll help break loose if there's any rust or anything in there. It'll also cause a little bit of thermal expansion and contraction, which sometimes will help kind of break things loose as well. Just kind of go in stages. That may not be enough. It may be enough. Let's see what happens here. That is not wanting to go. I'm going to see if I can go up a size on my easy out. I'm just worried that I'm going to snap that thing. Put one in a little bit bigger. I may have a little more torque I can put on it. All right, we're going to put some more heat on it. Try it again. That ought to go. Come on now. It's going to be real stubborn. All right, I'm going to let it cool down, and we'll give it another try here. Sometimes just that expansion and contraction will make a difference. So let's see if that works. Guys, I've just decided what I'm going to do is we're just going to drill this out and retap it. So what I've done is I've come over to my milling machine and I've got this thing set up where it's square. I've got it where it's flat across the top, and I've got my an end mill, an 1/8 inch end mill here lined up on the center of that hole, at least as close as I can get it, based off of measuring off the other ones and kind of trying to figure out where it's at and eyeballing it and everything else combined. I think I'm really, really close. Now, when I drilled the hole in there before, even though we used the center punch and everything else, it didn't drill perfectly straight and square like I had hoped. So we're going to be doing this to kind of straighten it out. Now I've got a 4-flute end mill. It's bottom cutting, but this will kind of cut down through there and hopefully get that hole back in the center where it's supposed to be. And instead of using a drill bit, which is going to follow the other hole, this one's going to hopefully kind of create a new hole through here. So let me go ahead and get the mill machine rolling, and we're just going to punch that thing out. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to raise the table up on this kind of slowly and carefully. And I do want to kind of eyeball it a little bit now that I got that hole kind of established. This is a bottom cutting in mill, just FYI, even though most of the holes already cleared out in this case, but still it is a bottom cutting in mill. And that should be deep enough. All right. Got a 5/32 drill bit here, which is the drill hole size for a 1032 thread. And we're going to go ahead and drill that out to size. I want it to follow the new hole as much as possible. Let me see if I can kind of get that established and started. I wish I had an end mill. I know my arm's probably in the way over here. It actually screwed it out the bottom. All right, we're gonna tap that hole now, and I think we'll be good to go, hopefully. I'm back over at the bench, and I've just got a 1032 tap here. I'm just gonna run this down there and rethread that hole. Actually, I could see most of the original threads were still in there, but we'll go ahead and run it through there just to make sure we got good threads going down through this. And while I'm at it, I'm probably just going to go ahead and run the tap down all of these threads. Go ahead and just clean them up while we're here, so not going to hurt anything. All right, let me get these other ones chased, and I think we'll be ready to put this thing back together. I think we got our guides ready to go on the machine. Let's see about getting these things mounted. I think they turned out pretty nice. Happy with how those look. Not bad. I'm pretty sure these are the originals on this machine. And they're not in bad shape, really, all things considered. So let's get them installed. So down here up underneath the bottom of the machine, there's a hole here where this little boss goes into. I had it removed and we were restoring it, and I just haven't put it back on yet. It screws right into this hole. Let me get this thing where it needs to be. Now mounted on that, we've got a little bar here that will allow this to swing around and adjust in and out, and this is where the guide actually fits on, and you can also kind of pivot it around wherever it needs to be to get it lined up on the blade. Now there's a boss here on the back side of the guide. I need to get it on there kind of like such. It'll tilt over roughly in this position. I'm going to have to do my fine adjusting once I get the blade back on. In fact, I think I'm just going to push it back a little bit. That's roughly where it needs to go. So I'm just going to tighten the set screw up here on the bottom. And the top one I can also adjust, but I'm going to, again, I'll tighten that up whenever we get the blade put back on and get it right where it needs to be. Let's get the top one mounted as well. So this is the top blade guard, or blade guide rather. It will move up and down. There's a mechanism here that allows us to raise up and down depending on the thickness of the piece of wood you're cutting. And like below where it was kind of offset, this one here is on an eccentric. It's, we got an offset lobe that as you rotate this, it will allow you to kind of position it and fine tune where you wanted to get it on center. Now, it is still set exactly like it was when we picked the saw up. So we're going to start with it right there. We may have to adjust the cam on it, but I'm hoping that that's going to be where it needs to be. So I'm just going to go ahead and tighten that up. And then we got our blade back on here, and like I said before, we'll start kind of fine tuning it. And I need to, you can also slide this in and out Again, it's set right where it was originally. I don't know if we need to make some adjustments to it. Probably will, but we'll see. All right, that one is on, but needs to be adjusted, as does the bottom one. Well, here we go. We got our top one installed, and like before, I got it set here where the front edge of this, is just before you start getting into those teeth, and we got the depth back here set where that blade, the back of that blade is going to hit this roller, and it'll roll. It won't go into the guides any farther than that, so you won't dull your blade, but you get the side support on the blade to help keep it from twisting. And we got basically the same thing set up before. Again, we just adjusted this. We can adjust it in and out. We can adjust it side to side with the cam action that's on that little piece there. But this one is set and adjusted, and I think we're ready to take this thing for a spin and make a cut on it. I haven't cut any wood on this thing yet, so I'm kind of anxious to see how she'll do. Well, before we crank her up and try it out, I just want to make one little more comment about the guides and why they're needed. So on this saw, this is an extra large big saw obviously, but there's about 6 feet from the center of that top wheel to the center of the bottom wheel. So when you look at the amount of blade that is in tension between the top and bottom, you got about 6 feet of blade here that is going up and down. Now, while you're making a cut, you can imagine if you start trying to make a scroll cut where you're turning, it's just going to want to bend the blade with the piece of wood and maybe not cut it as well. You want this blade to be pretty much staying straight all the time. That's what the guides do. They're just guiding that blade, and you can adjust these, get them fairly close together to one another, and it won't allow that blade to twist, or at least not nearly as much, because I've only got, maybe 18 inches between these two guides versus 6 feet between these two guides. So big, huge difference. And we can adjust the height, obviously, again, for our work. If we're cutting something thick, we can raise this guide up. If we're cutting something thin, we can get it down real close to the bottom. And there we go. So let's make a cut. Well, here we go, guys. This is the moment of truth. We are going to make our very first test cut on this saw since it's been restored. No telling when the last time this saw cut any wood. But all goes well, we should be good to go. Guides are installed, tires are crowned, everything's ready to go. Let's hit the on button. There she comes. Slow speed. And here we go. Look at that. No problem at all. Easy peasy. We'll stop it. There we go. I'm happy with that. That's awesome. Cut's great, runs great, guides appear to be working good. Yeah, I think we're in good shape. So what is left to do to this saw? One more thing. I've got one more thing that needs to be done, and I think we are done with this, and we can worry about getting it shipped up to New York, up to Jimmy. And the only thing that's left to do is there is a counterweight that needs to be added to it that basically puts some tension on this upper wheel. There's a little bar that comes in here that goes to the bottom of this that pushes upward pressure on this top wheel. And what that allows to happen is if a piece of trash or something gets behind the bottom wheel down here, it will allow that top wheel to kind of give a little bit. And just keep paying tension on it, but it'll give it just a little bit so you don't bust a blade or anything like that. So when I got the saw, it was pretty much all missing. All I've got is pictures to go off of from the catalogs and so forth like that. I did have some of the pieces, but not all the pieces. So we're gonna have to fabricate a new bottom lever for that counterweight, and then the actual weight itself, I had a pattern made for it. It's sitting at Windy Hill Foundry right now. I'm waiting to get the casting back for the counterweight. So we need to actually fabricate the bottom lever bar and get the weight mounted. And like I said, I'm waiting to get that back from Windy Hill Foundry. As soon as I get my hands on that, we can get that done. And when that is done, we can worry about getting this thing packed up and sent up to Jimmy. And for that, we're going to probably use a hot shot guy to come in, pick this thing up and carry it up to him. I'm not going to try to send it on a commercial truck or anything like that. And we will partially disassemble the saw to send it up there. It's just way too big to try to send with the bottom wheel and everything. We'll take the bottom wheel off, probably take the table off, probably take the top wheel off too, take the wheels off and the table off, put those on a separate pallet. We'll get the saw frame loaded up and get it headed up there, and then we'll reassemble it, or Jimmy will reassemble it. I may run up there and help him do that. We'll see how all that goes down the road. So anyway, first cut, extremely happy. I think this is going to be awesome. And guys, with that, it's going to be a wrap on this episode. As always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Those thumbs up and comments are always greatly appreciated. Hit that bell icon up there to get notifications when new videos are posted. As always, a big, huge thank you to those guys who do subscribe to the channel, as well as those who support the channel financially through PayPal and Patreon, so forth like that. It really allows me to take the time to shoot these videos, edit them, get them put up there, and just to justify taking the extra time it takes to do all that extra work. Guys, with that, we're going to sign off. Catch you on the next video. Again, thanks for watching.